Welcome to Excel Class Up. My name is Lazi Ferrer. I'm here to handle a subject titled Use of English. And we are starting with comprehension. We have been told that comprehension is the ability to understand a particular passage. And to comprehend means to understand. To comprehend means to understand. Now, if you are given a particular passage, for those of us that have seen how questions are being asked in JAMB, if you have seen a particular passage, they work on a particular thing known as paragraph. Paragraph is very compulsory when solving questions on comprehension. Every paragraph has a point. Every paragraph has a what? A point, or you write as point. Every paragraph has a point or has what? Point. So whenever you see a comprehension question, what are you expected to do? The first thing to do is to identify the number of paragraphs that can be found in that comprehension passage. And after you have identified the passages, the next thing you do is watch all the questions that are being asked under that passage. Watch all the questions that are being asked. Now, let's focus majorly on the questions you are expected to see. Number one, you are expected to see questions on word replacement. Question on what? Word replacement. You are expected to see questions on understanding the passage itself. Understanding the passage itself. And finally, number three, you are expected to know how to give a title. How to give a title to a passage. These three are what you are expected to work on diligently when solving questions in JAMB. Don't forget, a passage will be given. And the first thing to do is to identify the number of paragraphs that can be found in that passage. After you have identified the number of paragraphs, the next thing you do is to check the questions that are being asked under the question. Now, take for instance, let's look at in the area of word replacement. Word replacement. Many students find this aspect very difficult because they believe that this can only be handled with the use of dictionary. You are not expected to be with dictionary in the hall. Then how will you be able to replace the underlined word being given to you? There are principles to that, and we are going to be working on those principles right now. First and foremost, the rules or the principles. Number one, identify the tense being underlined. Identify the tense being underlined. Very important. Identify the tense being what? Underlined. If the tense being underlined is present tense, take note, you are expected also to supply a present action. If the word underlined is a past tense, you are expected also to supply a past tense. Take note of that. So that is the first thing. So when a passage is seen, what do? And they underline certain words there. The second thing you do is read that question in that area. You reread it. Note, reread the passage given that is related to the underlined word. To the what? Underlined word. Take for instance, a passage has been given and you have read from the beginning in the first paragraph, they did not underline any word. And you move to the second paragraph and they, after full stop, they wrote a statement and they underlined a particular word. What do you need to do? You don't need to read the first paragraph to get the answer of the second paragraph being underlined. What do you need to do? You just focus on that area where that underlined word is. Say for instance, they said after reading the passage and they wrote, I was perplexed when I had the results. A lot have been said in the passage. But in the course of the passage, a statement was given. I was perplexed when I had the result. And a word was underlined, perplexed. And you are asked to replace perplexed with another word. First, I said, identify the tense being underlined. In this word being underlined here is what? Perplexed. Is it present tense? Is it past tense? So if you have been able to identify the tense, then you have taken the first step. The next step is, I said, reread, which means that area that the underlined word is, you are expected to read it several times in order to understand what that place is talking about. And when you are able to understand what that area is talking about, you will be able to know the word to use. Take note, you can't use dictionary words to answer a comprehension passage. Take note of that. Now, number 3 that you still need to note under this is that a particular word can have different meanings. A particular word can have what? Different meanings. What do you mean by that? Take, for instance, you are given a question related to paper. And after reading the question in a passage, you saw the police asked the man to show them the papers of the car. The papers of the what? Of the car. And they underline the word papers. So, a particular word can have what? Different meanings. Then I said, let's say for instance, the word paper. They said the police asked the man to show their papers of the car. And from here, they underline the word papers. What do? They said, look for another word to replace papers. If you check your dictionary, the word papers here connotes what? Writing material. Can you see it now? But in the passage given, read the question again. The police asked the man to show their papers of the car. So if you are asked and they give you option A, option B, option C, and option what? D, and you are asked to pick the correct answer, they wrote writing materials, they wrote points number C and number D. You are not expected to pick what? Writing material. What they are asking for in this question is what? Particulars of the car. The particulars of the car. So A particular word can have different meanings. Take for instance again, still making use of the word paper. We are talking about word replacement. So for you to be able to understand word replacement effectively, you should be able to understand the passage. The passage. That is how you can understand it. Now the question comes this way again. The candidate last paper is chemistry. The candidate last paper is chemistry. After they've given you a passage, but from the side they underline, they say the candidate last paper is what? Chemistry. They now underline the word paper. They are asked that what word should be used to replace paper. Now take note. You cannot use writing materials and you cannot use particulars. Can you see now how we have used paper in different ways based on the passage given? So you are expected to understand the passage before you can replace a word. So in this now, the candidate last paper is chemistry, talks about what? The candidate last what? Exam. So paper here has been replaced with what? Exam. While in this place, paper here has been replaced with what? Particulars. So I'm showing you the principles or the rules you are expected to use under word replacement. Take for instance, number 4 again. You are expected to identify the capitals being used. Able to identify the capital word being used. The capital word being used. If a particular word is being given, you are expected to check it appropriately. Check the tense. Check if the question starts with capital letter or starts with a word, small letter. Take, for instance, the question I gave you. I said, I was perplexed when I had the result. And in the question, the underline perplexed. The options given are surprised. You are giving surprised. You are giving surprise. And you are giving what? Surprise. Now, candidates may look at this question and said everything is the same. They are not the same. Because why? What they underlined was perplexed. If you want to replace a word, the first thing we are told is identify the tense. After that, check it out, the capital word being used. If the first letter being used there is capital letter, your answer too must start with capital letter. We have been told that we should consider the tense. In this tense here, what we are giving is what? Past tense. So your answer too must be in what? Past tense. So the correct answer here is option what? B. Which is what? Surprised. Starting with capital letter what? S. Starting with capital letter S, because in the question we are giving capital letter what? P. And the last thing ends with ED. You are also expected to have your answer ending with what? ED. So all these are what you are expected to take note when solving questions under word replacement. Then the second one again we are expected to know under comprehension is ability to understand the passage itself. Ability to understand the passage itself. Like you have been told, a passage will be given, and I told you that what? Identify the word paragraph. Now, you will see questions will be asked. They said from the passage, what is the writer trying to say? Can you say it now? From the passage, what is the writer trying to what? Say. Now, when you see question of that nature, your answer cannot come from any other place other than the passage. it is in the passage, you will get the what? Answer. You can't get the answer outside the what? Passage. So how do you now get a correct answer to a question being asked related to your passage? Number one is this. Read the passage carefully with skimming and scanning. Read the passage carefully with skimming and scanning. What do you mean by skimming? What do you mean by what? Scanning. Ability to read fast and pick a point. Ability to read fast and still pick a point. Now, the computer is placed before you and you see a comprehension question being asked. What are you expected to do? You begin to go through it. And as you are going through it, you are picking a point. How do you pick a point? Number two is a what? Identify the purpose of the passage. Identify the purpose of the passage. Identify the purpose of the what? Passage. If you are able to identify the purpose of the passage, then you are getting closer to getting your answers. And the third one is read the questions given to you. Read the questions given to you. Read the questions given to you. When you have seen the questions given to you, then the next thing you do is go back to the passage to identify the answers. Go back to the passage to identify the what? The answers. Now, what does that connote? Take for instance, you have been given a passage and the passage centers on maybe education. You have identified that the passage centers on what? Education, which means you have known the purpose of the what? Passage. Now, the next thing you do is you go back to the question. Every comprehension in JAMB is either 1 to 5 or 1 to 10. So what do? You read the first question, you read the second question, you read the third question. After reading it, you go back to the passage and begin to see where those questions are being related to. That is a secret. You see where it's being related to. And from there, you see your option A, option B, option C, and option D. Then you pick the right word. So if, for instance, they say from the passage, what led to the death of Mr. Okori? From the passage, what led to the death of Mr. Okori? Then what do you need to do? Identify from the passage where you will see the word death and what? Mr. Okori. Identify from the passage. Immediately you see where that death is. What do? You will read that question very well so that it can fit into the options given to you. Because the options are A, B, C, and what? D. So if you did not read the question, you might be able to pick the wrong answer. So, but if you read it very well, you will know that, okay, the answer is from this part, but how did I frame it to ensure that it goes with the options being given? So these are what you are expected to see under understanding the passage itself. You need to understand the passage itself. And finally, on the aspect of comprehension, students find this so difficult. They ask it sometimes, and some students say, how can someone get a title to a passage they did not write? And they will say, what? Identify the title to a passage. Please listen and listen carefully. These are questions that you need to be very, very careful with. A passage is given to you. And after the passage, from the questions you are asked, they said, from this passage, what title can be given to it? A passage you did not what? You did not write yourself. And you are being asked to give a title to it. If you have been conversant with your past question, you will check UTME 2002, UTME 2023, UTME 2022, UTME 2023, you will see a question that relates to football. And they said, what title can be given to this passage? Take note, a passage you did not prepare by yourself. Now, what are the secrets or what are the rules? What are the principles to give a title to a passage? The first thing you do is understand the purpose of the passage. Understand the purpose of the passage. In those years that I mentioned, the purpose of that passage was centered on football competition. Was centered on what? Football competition. Now, what is the first thing? You understand the purpose of that passage. Oh, this passage centers on football. Now, you are there. Now, what is the next thing you do? The next thing you do is what? Identify the number of paragraphs. Identify the number of paragraphs in the passage. Identify the number of paragraphs in the passage. How many paragraphs are given to me in this passage? After you have identified the paragraph, then what do? Number 3, which is the key point to give a title to a passage. And number 3 is identify a word or phrase used mostly in all the passages, in all the paragraphs. Identify a word or phrase used mostly in all the paragraphs. This is where the secret lies. This is the secret. Identify a word or phrase used mostly in all the word paragraphs. In that question I'm talking about, in that question UTME, they mentioned football related to what? World Cup. They will mention football related to Nigeria and other countries. They mentioned football related to what? World Cup, and that was what was found in all the paragraphs. So from there, what do you need to do? You know that what? The title to this passage must be from football, World Cup, or countries. You have picked these 3 out there now. Then what do you need to do? You check their option. Options are already given. You have option A, you have option B, you have option C, you have option D. Then from there, you'll be able to identify the correct one. So the third one is identify a word or phrase used mostly in all the paragraphs. And finally, when you are able to what? Identify the word or phrase used mostly in all the paragraphs, then summarize your point by forming your title before checking the options. Full stop. Summarize your point by forming your title before checking the options. Yes, that the road give a title to this passage. They have given you option A, option B, option C, option D. If you go straight to the option, you might not get the answer. So that is why I gave you the secret. The secret, you understand the purpose of the passage first. What is this passage all about? Is it about football? Is it about politics? Is it about education? Is it about journalism? Is it about one thing or the other? Now, you are able to understand that. If a center of transportation, you have been able to understand that. Then the second thing is what? Identify the number of paragraphs in the passage. How many paragraphs are given? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I've seen number one, I've seen number two, I've seen number three, and number four. Then the next one is identify a word or phrase used mostly in all the paragraphs. They mention transport in first paragraph, transport in second paragraph, transport in third paragraph, transport in fourth paragraph. Just know that that transport is a pointer to your title. The transport is a pointer to your title. So after that, what do? You summarize your point by forming your title before checking the what options. So this is how you identify the title to a passage. And finally, mostly you see them also asking questions related to what? Maybe figures of speech. It is mostly found maybe in some questions, but not mostly they have eliminated question based on what? Figures of what? Speech. So that is why you have to know identification of title to a passage, word replacement, ability to read a passage and understand the passage. So these three things are what you are expected to study effectively when solving questions in JAMB comprehension. Don't forget that what? Immediately a question is given to you in your computer, it is going to open up to your what? To your comprehension passage. Immediately a question is seen that way, you don't need to be scared. The first thing you do is identify. Just take note of this word. Identify the paragraph first. It is a paragraph that will help you to solve any questions related to what? To comprehension. And if you are able to identify the paragraph, the next thing you do is each paragraph always have a point, or each paragraph always have a message. There is no paragraph that don't have a message. Take note of that. So you need to find out the message a particular passage is passing through. And if you are able to get that, you are able to get your answer. Then finally, take note of this. Take note. Comprehension questions have vital points. Comprehension questions have vital points. Comprehension questions have vital points, especially in JAMB. Number one, identify if a word given is related, if a word given is related to the passage. Now, what do I mean? When you see a particular passage and the first thing you see in that passage is how lengthy the passage is, try to find a word in that particular passage. When you are able to get a word that that passage is talking about, no matter the question being asked, you'll be able to get it. So, take for instance, identify if a word given is related to the word passage. That particular area will help you in solving so many questions. So, identification of a word being related to a passage, as I've earlier said, you can identify that if you have seen them in different word paragraphs. Then number two of another thing you need to note when solving comprehension question is ability to concentrate. Ability to what? To concentrate. Concentration matters a lot when reading a comprehension passage. Because why? We have been told that comprehension talks about what? Ability to understand a passage. Take note, you are not the one that wrote the passage. The passage is given to you. Question is also given to you. Then the first secret to getting the answers to them is your concentration. So you have to concentrate in order to understand the passage very well. And finally, number 3, which most students don't take note when they are in the examination hall. Please ignore the time. Ignore the time. There is no way you can answer comprehension passage effectively without reading it. Don't get it wrong. You cannot read a comprehension passage and not get answer. But if you did not read it, it will be difficult for you to get the answer. So when you are with your computer and you identify that time is reading, ignore the time. Ensure that you are able to identify what that passage is all about. Because why? If you check your JAMB syllabus, most question marks or most questions given to you, they focus on the comprehension. You hear some students say, well, the comprehension question is more than the Concord question. You said some say the comprehension question is more than the Lekki headmaster you are asked to read. So if peradventure the comprehension given to you is 3 in number, you have the first comprehension passage, the second comprehension passage, the third comprehension passage, then what do? These are the secret. Ignore the time. Ensure that you follow all the principles that have been given to you. And no matter what you are doing under comprehension, please engage in what we call skimming and scanning. Don't forget this. Engage in skimming and scanning. This is the secret of comprehension. Secret of comprehension. Skimming and scanning. Ability to read quickly and pick your point. You cannot sit with it and be checking it one by one to see if the answer is correct. No. But what do? The more you read the question based on skimming and scanning, you are picking the point. And when you go back to the question, you'll be able to see that you have touched or seen the answer from the passage. So engage fully in skimming and what? Scanning. Engage fully in concentration, and finally ignore your time. I wish you best of luck.